This podcast is brought to you by the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. Their mission is to honor America's fallen fire heroes, support their families, colleagues, and organizations, and work to reduce preventable firefighter death and injury. Learn more at firehero.org.
Hi, Chris McClune here with Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment. Welcome to this episode of our webcast. Today, my guest is Kevin Roberts. He's with the EVT Certification Commission. We're going to let him introduce himself in just a second. Today, we're going to talk about EVTs and how important they are to keeping our rigs on the road as we go. There is to become an EVT certified technician, EVT emergency vehicle technician. There is a process you go to. Kevin's going to go through that with us today. We're going to talk a little bit about why it's important to have EVTs on staff. It is their fire apparatus maintenance is done in a variety of different ways. Sometimes on the volunteer side, you have people who are very mechanically inclined and can take care of some of those maintenance items, traditionally who are not EVTs. Some of the maintenance is done at the dealer level, and some of it, depending on the municipality, may be done by the Department of Public Works. So there's a variety of different ways that we can get our rigs back on the road if there is something wrong. Don't forget, if you have any topic suggestions, and I'll repeat this at the end too, don't forget to email them to me at chris.mcclune@clarionevents.com. So having said all of that, let's jump into it. Kevin, thank you again for joining me today. Kevin, as I said, you're part of the EVT Certification Commission, but how about just introduce yourself to our audience, give a little bit of your background and how you got into the EVT Certification Commission.
Very good. Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I've had my own repair shop for 35 years. I've been working on vehicles since I was in single digits age. I was one of 7 children raised on a farm, and I was the one that got along better with the equipment. So I've always known what I wanted to do ever since I was very young, and I've always wanted to work in a shop, and I've been doing it, and I still enjoy it. So when one of my customers approached me about working on ambulances many decades ago, I decided that it was time I needed to take some certification tests, which I did, and passed all my ASC ambulance tests, which is what got me involved with them. Once you achieve master level ambulance, which includes ASC tests and EVT tests, then you get an invitation to come to at that time it was Jacksonville, Florida, for a week in January to help work on the committees to write test questions to develop the test. And of course, I'm from northern Wisconsin right now, so a week in Florida in January is not a bad thing. So I've been doing that since the late 90s, early 2000s, and still have the shop going. No intention whatsoever of retiring ever. I'm not the guy that's going to sit in front of the television for the rest of my life. So I have a training career. I have the shop. I do training for CarQuest Technical Institute, and then I have the volunteer work with EVTCC.
Okay, well, you mentioned a bunch of different pieces to the EVT certification there as you were talking, and we're going to get into that more as we talk here. But could just to jump us off here, talk about the importance of emergency vehicle technician certification. Why do it? There are probably a number of people out there that probably think, well, a heavy truck is a heavy truck is a heavy truck. Why do I need this added level of certification to work on fire apparatus or ambulances, or even probably there's probably a police component in there as well. So why do it? Talk about the importance of this certification.
Well, in the world we live in, the goodwill exemption for fire departments and the like, public works has disappeared. If something bad happens, then the departments are now looked at as sort of a deep pockets principle. And so that goodwill exemption is gone. When I do training classes, quite often I ask a question: given the choice between the two, would you rather pass the test or would you rather become a better technician? And it's always the same answer. The vast majority in the group always raise their hand that they want to become better techs, which is a good thing, because in this day and age of liability concerns, first of all, the best way to avoid liability exposure is to do good work on the rigs. Second of all, the second best is paperwork. Certification is paperwork. Proper checklists are paperwork. Proper repair orders are paperwork. So having the necessary paperwork is highly important when it comes to liability exposure. But there's more to it than that. There is the idea that being able to pass a certification test will make you a better technician. Being able to pass a certification test is not absolute proof that you are the best technician, because it's only a part of becoming a good technician. And we all know of people that struggle with the process of studying for, preparing for, and passing multiple choice written tests. They get anxious. They get anxiety problems because of that. And we also know, most of us that have been in this industry for any amount of time, we know technicians that they struggle to pass a test, but at 3:30 in the morning when the rigs broke down, that's the guy you call. So what I tell people quite often is that even EVTCC certification is not everything, but it's something. And it's something that's very important to improve your own skills, just going through the process of the studying and taking the test. We're not really a training organization, but I do view the process of reading and taking a test, looking at the question, as a skill to be improved. So we will have questions that will actually secondarily instruct the test taker. So it's I think it's a very important process.
And that, I think what you just mentioned with the testing component and the reticence that some may have when it comes to taking tests. I mean, we have that on the fire side when we go through our firefighter 1 and firefighter 2 certs. You can have incredibly skilled individuals that just aren't good test takers. So I really think that distinction you made there is really, really important. I did want to ask you though, just so everyone knows, you do not need to be a firefighter to get these certifications. That's correct, right? Because we had someone on not so long ago, and he kept saying, "Well, I'm not a firefighter, but I'm not a firefighter, but." And I think it's important that people understand that that whether or not that's actually something that is a component to all this.
Yes, as a matter of fact, there's a fair number of firefighters who do technician work on the side. That's a very common thing, especially in smaller volunteer departments. But there's no requirement for that. The main requirements are that you're willing to study and learn and take a test. But the skills that are involved, and this is one thing that I think a lot of people miss, is the skills that are involved in reading and understanding a test question and choosing the correct answer are exactly the same skill as reading through service information and gaining the understanding of how the system works. So we're not asking someone to develop a skill. We're asking, or it's hard to say, we're hoping that people can get past the anxiety that they come to taking a test with, because it really is exactly the same skill as reading service information. And it's not a whole lot different from the skill of looking at a rig, seeing what's there, and determining whether it's safe to operate or not, or needs repair or something addressed on the rig.
So with all that in mind, talk about the path a mechanic or just an ASE certified technician. Talk about the path that they would take to achieve EVT certification.
The path that I took and the path that quite a few people I know took are just, they simply go to our website, they download the PDF file that gives, on one file, it gives all the reference materials, plus it gives all the learning objectives. One of the things we do is we provide each test taker with a list that will allow him to know every single topic that will show up on the test. We use this whenever in the committee work that we write a new test question, we always have to reference it to reference materials. So we have a third party agreeing that this is the way it is, and that we include it in the learning objectives. So there's never, ever a surprise when someone takes a test. They will never get a test regarding a topic that isn't already been shared with them for the through the PDF file that gives the learning objectives. The way I tell people is we already give you all the answers. We just don't tell you ahead of time what the questions are going to be.
Now, where do they go? Where do they go to do it? So they decide, they go to the website, they download that. As I understand it, there are no online tests that they can take. So they need to go to a test site. Talk a little bit about the test sites, where they are, how often the tests are held, that kind of stuff.
If you would like to register for a test, you can do that. You can register for the test online. You go to the EVTCC website. Google's pretty good at finding us. And we've just done a recent update to make the website more mobile friendly as well. And you find the tab where it's exams and preparation, and you click on that, and you can go from there to each test, whether you want to take a fire apparatus design and performance test, or pumps, or ambulance HVAC, or law enforcement upfit, or airport rescue. We have quite a few tests, and you pick the test you want. Each test has that PDF file that I described with the reference materials and the learning objectives. And it's basically a self-study. There is no prerequisite for you to take any test. You sign up for the test online. And one of the things we strongly recommend is that you give yourself plenty of time. I would not recommend signing up for the test until you've done a significant amount of study, so that you have a little bit of an understanding of what the test is going to entail on a technical level. Because if you find out after you've signed up for a test that a large percentage of the items on the learning objectives, you're not sure what they are, then it's too early to sign up for the test. You should download the process, and then if you've already been ASE certified as a technician, that is the tests that we offer are very similar to that as multiple choice questions. We offer testing twice a year in standard, what we call nationwide test sites. These are sites that we've been using over and over again. We do it once in June, once in October. In addition to that, we have special test sites. And if you can get a training class together through your local fire mechanics association, then quite often we will offer a test at the end of that, as long as we can locate a proctor, a qualified proctor, which generally is a sworn officer in the fire department, usually a chief, I believe, or a technical college instructor, or something like that. We do have requirements, and these are all volunteers. The proctors are volunteers. Everyone that works on our committee work to help us write test questions are volunteers. I'm a volunteer. All the board members are volunteers. We have two remarkably talented people in the office taking care of things right now. And actually, we're looking to expand that into 3.
Now, if the shop that does the work on the rigs is, for example, a public the public works shop of a city. All their mechanics or technicians are ASE certified. What does the EVT certification afford them that they don't have already?
Well, there's just the simple background of having gone through the test. If you've got a lot of experience working on emergency vehicles, then you already have an understanding that a fire truck is not driven like a semi, an ambulance is not driven like a service van, and a law enforcement vehicle is not driven like a commuter car. They are under completely different design cycles. Operational cycles and parameters. So what this does for you is it gives you a sense from the people on our committee on what's important to know in order to be able to service, diagnose, and repair these vehicles effectively. So it makes you a better tech. There's no question about that. But it also gives you the paperwork, the third party. We are the third party. We are the people that say, this is what an emergency vehicle technician needs to know. And if he passes the test, we can verify that he knows that. It's knowledge that, there are two kinds of skills in the automotive repair world. The ability to reach up inside of a dash and put a zip tie around 4 wires with 2 fingers, or to start a bolt that you can't see somewhere. Those are physical skills. But there's also the mental skills of knowing what part you need to replace without just simply looking up on YouTube to see what's the most common part and start with that one first. So it makes you a better technician, both efficiency wise and expertise wise.
Okay. Now we've talked about the tests and some test sites. We're going to get into different levels if there is such a thing with EVT certification, but could you just provide a brief background on the EVT Certification Commission, maybe just a brief history, and just kind of bring us up to speed on what it is, beyond what it does,
Sure.
what is that commission?
Well, we were started many decades ago in response to some incidents of poor maintenance, poor repair, vehicles that were operated on public highways that should have been out of service. And some accidents, crashes happened, and therefore the EVT CC came to be to provide, similar to ASE, a certification process so that we protect the department, the technician, the operators, the public, in the case of an ambulance, the patients, in the case of a fire truck, the people with the house that needs the fire truck to get there in a timely and safe manner. So it's unfortunate that such things had to occur to get this started, but that's just the way the world works. And so we were started to address some of the concerns. And as hard as we've tried, we still do occasionally hear of mechanical breakdowns. I get phone calls all the time about vehicles that were not properly maintained, diagnosed, or repaired, and had a breakdown that either was something extremely minor or something that led to a lawsuit. And what we try to do is to improve the skills of the technicians working on it. We actually have a driver operator test as well to do things like pre-trip, where we don't actually ask the driver of the fire truck to become a technician, but because he has the responsibility to sign off through federal DOT regulations, that if he gets behind the wheel of a fire truck, he's responsible not just for the safe operation of the truck, but for the safe condition of the truck. And a lot of the firefighters that we have in service, especially the young ones, were raised under a completely different environment, and they don't have that mechanical background to be able to do it. So unfortunately, we were started as a response to some negative occurrences, but our goal is to basically make the world a safer place for the departments, the operators, the technicians, and the public.
Now, you mentioned that, I go to the website, I pick the test I want to take. There are no prerequisites for that test, but Are there different levels of testing, different levels of certification? I mean, is there like a not beginner, but more like an entry level, followed by intermediate, followed by the technician level stuff, master technician,
Yes.
however you want to describe it? Are there levels? Is probably not the right term.
No, levels is,
but are there different areas?
Levels
and talk about the different areas.
Yeah, levels is exactly the right term. We offer 3 levels of all the way up to master, level 1, level 2, and master level in all the tests that we offer. Now, a couple things about that. We work together with ASE, we have done so from the beginning, and they're a great organization to work with, so that we can, instead of reinventing a wheel, there are certain differences. For example, an ambulance HVAC system is significantly different than a pickup truck HVAC system. So we have our own HVAC test, and there's certainly differences in electrical systems, both in trucks and ambulances, fire trucks and ambulances, compared to commercial trucks or delivery vehicles. So we offer level certifications. So let's say you pass a single test for fire truck design and performance, or better yet, let's go fire truck maintenance. Then you would be considered qualified to do maintenance procedures on a fire truck. Now, in order to get level certification, if you want to be above a single, you got level 1, level 2, and level 3, which is master. All 3 levels will include a combination of ASE tests and EVT tests. So to get master level, let's say fire truck, you'll have to take a significant number of ASE tests plus fire apparatus tests, but there will be some of the fire apparatus tests that are not necessary for master level. The fire industry, the emergency vehicle industry is not only completely different than the commercial and private vehicle industry. Fire trucks are completely different than ambulances, and ambulances are completely different than law enforcement rigs. The average law enforcement rig is probably, the lifespan is probably only 2 to 5 years. An ambulance is probably 5 to 15 years, and fire trucks, all bets are off. I've seen fire trucks in service for 35, 40, even close to 50 years. And in small departments with small budgets, they still work. So for that reason, we don't require some of the advanced electrical, because there's a lot of people that never see a multiplexed electronic system because their truck was built in the late 90s. So we don't require everything for master level, but we do have the maintenance, the design, the performance, the pumps, that kind of stuff. So, and the same for ambulances and somewhat the same for law enforcement upfit.
You mentioned HVAC. So that's one area. Talk about the other areas that are fire truck specific that people get certified in. I'm guessing probably there's some electrical system type stuff. There might be, I don't know if you guys certify on aerial maintenance, but I'm guessing there's some pump maintenance in there as well, transmissions, brakes. Talk about the different areas that you can get certified in that are fire truck specific.
Yes, the fire truck is an interesting one because there are actually 2 tests for electrical. There's the basic electrical and there's the advanced electrical. The advanced electrical gets more involved with multiplexed electrical control systems, plus line voltage, alternating current, generators, and things like that. So we have an aerial test, we have a pump test, we have a maintenance test, we have a hydraulic test. And each one of these tests is system specific and allows the individual test taker to be certified in the area that he is going to work on the most, if it's a big shop with multiple technicians, or he can become master certified to work on all of them if he so chooses. All of the details of this are easily accessible on our website for to achieve master level, either ambulance or fire truck EVT.
What you you discussed earlier the challenges on the test side. Some people just maybe aren't great test takers. What are some of the other challenges to gaining EVT certification, and how does the EVTCC help technicians achieve it?
That's a very good question. The main way that we help technicians achieve certification is by making sure that the test questions are clear, unambiguous, and understandable. So we are primarily a certification entity. We are not a training entity. But as I tell people regularly, if you have a fire department, we strongly recommend that you have a fire truck, but we don't recommend any particular brand. If you want to be EVTCC certified, we strongly recommend that you attend training. We will make you aware of, but not so much endorse any particular trainer, because my personal goal and the goal of the organization as a whole is to maintain the credibility of the organization by maintaining the security of the intellectual property. We're very particular about who takes a test, that we have good identification for anybody that walks in to take a test, that we don't allow cell phones, Google Glass, all of the technical details. And sometimes you have to be a little bit intrusive because I've proctored tests, and you have to make people aware that the only way that we can be a credible third party for certifying technicians is if we maintain the integrity of our product, which is the integrity of the tests. So that's what we do. We do one thing. We write tests. We strongly encourage other things, but personally, in our organization, we write tests and test questions.
Now, once you achieve the certification, and this question might get a little convoluted. I mean, the simple question is, how do you maintain it? But also, you could take one test 1 year and then take another test 2 years later because you wanted to get up to speed on electrical systems or things of that nature. Does the EVTCC help you keep track of what you need to get? Is there a recertification process? And if so, does the association or commission help you keep track of what you need to do and when you need to do it?
Certainly. When you take a test, let's say you take one, you start out with one test, because some people they're not real test takers and they want to do it in a gradual process. So you take a test and you're certified from that test. If you pass the test, you're certified for a 5-year period. In 5 years, you have to recertify. And as you mentioned, there might be a little bit of overlap. I've got mine down, so I basically take all the ambulance tests, which is my area of most expertise. I take all the ambulance tests at once. After doing this for many decades, I was able to reorganize and take a couple tests early once in a while, and now I just take all the research at once. There's 100 and some questions on each regular test. There's less than that. It varies on the recertification tests. But between the nationwide test dates in June and October, or the special test sites that are available during training, especially with fire mechanics associations, as long as you pass the test, again, within the 5 years, plus there's a little bit of a grace period. I mean, and I understand, I really think I'm 100% in agreement with the grace period. Because you didn't recertify exactly after 5 years doesn't mean you forgot everything you know. But just for the protection of your liability exposure and doing proper paperwork, we do strongly recommend. But as COVID pointed out to everyone, you sometimes just don't have control of everything you'd like to and be able to take a test on a timely basis.
Does the EVTCC email me as that is getting closer? Is that really incumbent upon the technician to keep track of those things?
I would strongly recommend the technician keep track of it. It's very simple to do. When you pass a test, you get a certificate. Hang the certificate in your office on your toolbox or something like that. And there's going to be a little date on it that's going to tell you you're good until. So, yeah, that I think would be the best way. We are a relatively small nonprofit, so that we don't have a whole lot of extra people. We don't have the horsepower to be able to just warn people, okay, it's coming close, to send out emails and things like that. Hey, we're automotive techs. We have been taking care of ourselves and our customers for the last 100 years. And so I think most of us be dependent on to keep our certifications up to date.
Gotcha. Well, we're approaching the point where I'm going to start wrapping us up. Do you have any general comments on EVT certification and its importance?
Sure. The working as an automotive technician, even in the civilian world, not just the emergency vehicle world, is one of the most challenging careers that you can have. It's not really just a job to anybody that I know. It's more of a combination of a calling, a discipline, and a career. And to be able to, I have a friend who's an electrician, and he has a very small complement of tools. I have a friend who's an HVAC tech. He comes to your house with his tools, believe it or not, in a bucket. And I have a friend who does computer work. He sits at a desk most of the day. Well, those are all areas of expertise that every automotive technician needs to have. We need to know basic electricity. We need to know basic mechanical physics. We need to know airflow, fuel chemistry, all of the things that involve in moving people from point A to point B on a four-wheel vehicle. The friction of the brakes to stop. When I do my training classes, I spend a fair amount of time on hammer selection and pry bar selection because it's mechanical physics involved. So we think that we are fulfilling a very important need in the culture today, and we hope that we can strongly encourage people to join this industry. With the way the world has gone the last several decades, we are seeing fewer and fewer people. The average age of the automotive technician has been going up steadily for the last couple decades. And the reason that most of the people that I know got into this industry is twofold. They really enjoy working on mechanical things, and they really enjoy helping people. And both that pleasure of succeeding in repairing something, which I learned at a very young age, and plus the pleasure you get from helping people out, getting them going again when they have no clue as to what to do with their own vehicle. That's a very rewarding and meaningful occupation. So it would be better for the whole economy, plus the individuals themselves, to be involved in a career such as automotive service and repair and emergency vehicle service and repair offers.
Now, you've mentioned your website many times. You mentioned Google's pretty good at finding you. There's a lot of information on that website beyond just beyond the different tests and the PDFs that come along with that. There's a lot of information on associations by state,
yes,
for mechanics and things like that. But for those who want to go directly to the website to find more information, what's that website?
EVTCC.org. And it's easily findable. And like you said, we can, if you navigate your way through it, you'll find out by state where testing is offered, both nationwide and special test sites. So it's not a very difficult website to navigate. It's a fairly small and simple website, but I think it's pretty well put together. And again, we have just recently improved it, made it more mobile friendly as well to access from phones.
Now, I have one more question for you, and that just has to do on the emergency vehicle side. And your specialty is ambulances, and you've had your shop for 35 years and everything. What's the most challenging repair job you've come up against in your career? And was the challenge diagnosing the problem? Was the challenge the repair itself? Talk about your toughest job.
Well, we have a very special tool in our shop called the weirdo meter. And when something comes in and is very odd, it registers very high on that weirdo meter. And doing it as long as I have, I think I would be hard pressed. One that comes to mind was we mentioned ambulance HVAC. I had a vehicle one time that cooled perfectly fine in the back and didn't cool so well in the front. And I expected, because the rear is a thermal expansion valve and the front's an orifice tube, that we probably had a circumstance of a low charge that would allow one of the systems to work and the other one not, because those are the orifice tube and the thermal expansion valve are two completely different ways of controlling the refrigerant flow through the two halves of the system. And I was, of course, completely wrong. I drove it and it seemed to cool a little bit in front and very nicely in the back, and come to find out that the rear expansion valve was the fault. I pulled the system down and it had a full charge. I was totally surprised by that. And it took a little bit of fooling around and probably cost me a little more time than it would today, having run through it once, to determine that what was at fault was a thermal expansion valve, because the front shouldn't even be tied into the thermal expansion valve. And but I replaced the thermal expansion valve and it fixed it and everything was fine. So, but that's just a single example. I've had so many where you bring a vehicle in and you're already pretty sure what it is. You go test something, you find a serious problem, you fix the problem, which might even include major engine repair, and then you find out that you still have more problems. That's we spend a lot of time talking about the English language in our office, because everybody has to know the difference between a problem and the problem. And whenever we speak with a customer, we always tell them, well, we found a problem. And we won't know for sure if it's the problem until we fix the first one that we found. Because in the age of computer controls and everything else, where computers can be inadvertently used to mask other symptoms, because they're adaptive, sometimes you have to just almost assume that when you find a single cause that could be causing it, that there's going to be another one. It's not a bad habit of thinking to embrace.
Well, good deal. Well, Kevin, thank you for taking some time out to share that story. First of all, I'm sure you got a million more. I like that. I like that. Is it the problem or a problem?
Yeah.
That's a pretty important distinction that I hadn't thought of, and I'll think about that the next time I take my car down, to the mechanic down the street with one thing, and they come back with kind of a list of other things that they found en route to determining the ultimate problem. I'll definitely remember that, and I might not turn so red, when I see the bill for it.
Right.
But thank you very much for taking time out to talk about this and the importance of becoming an EVT and how to achieve that certification. Again, if you have topics that you would like to see us address on this podcast, please let me know. I'm at chris.mcclune@clarionevents.com. If there are any questions that you have for Kevin, let me know. chris.mcclune@clarionevents.com, and I will get them over to him, and I'm sure he'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. If you would like to view previous webcast or podcasts, they are all on our website at fireapparatusmagazine.com/podcast. So again, my thanks to you, Kevin. Again, this has been Chris McClune with Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment. Have a good one and stay safe. Thanks again, Kevin.
Thank you, Chris.
This podcast is brought to you by the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. Their mission is to honor America's fallen fire heroes, support their families, colleagues, and organizations, and work to reduce preventable firefighter death and injury. Learn more at firehero.org.